How inmates survive on $3 daily food budget at Louisiana State Penitentiary, Angola. The kitchen thermometer read 43 degrees. It should have been at 38. Stay with this story. What happens next almost didn't get stopped. Marcus Webb had worked food service at Louisiana State Penitentiary for 19 years. Angola. 18,000 acres of former plantation land turned into America's largest maximum security prison. 5,000 inmates. $3 per day per person for food. Webb knew how to stretch a dollar until it screamed. But he'd never seen the walk-in refrigerator run 5 degrees warm before. It was Tuesday, June 14th. The Louisiana heat was already pushing 97 degrees outside. Inside the main kitchen facility, industrial fans fought a losing battle against the swelter. Webb supervised 17 inmate workers who prepared every meal for Camp F, housing 900 men serving life sentences without parole. The breakfast shift had just ended. Grits, biscuits, sausage gravy. Standard fare. Nothing remarkable. The lunch prep was underway. Red beans and rice. Cornbread. Chicken quarters that had been delivered 3 days earlier. Webb checked the refrigerator log. Temperature recorded at 38 degrees every 4 hours for the past 72 hours. Exactly where it should be. But the thermometer inside told a different story. He radioed maintenance. They said they'd send someone. Maybe this afternoon. Maybe tomorrow. The prison had 6 industrial kitchen facilities across the property. Equipment failures happened constantly. Budget cuts meant deferred maintenance. Patches instead of fixes. Webb made a decision. The chicken had to be used today or discarded. 900 portions. Nearly a quarter of the weekly protein budget for Camp F. Throwing it away meant rice and beans for the rest of the week. No meat. Just carbs and canned vegetables. He checked the chicken. No obvious discoloration. No foul smell. It had been properly stored, as far as the logs showed. The temperature issue was recent. Probably just started overnight. He approved the chicken for lunch service. Inmate worker Jerome raised a concern. Boss, something don't smell right with batch 3. Webb checked batch 3. 25 chicken quarters in a metal pan. They looked fine. Smelled fine to him. You got a sensitive nose, Harris? It's good. Keep prepping. Harris didn't argue. Inmates didn't argue with free world staff. Not if they wanted to keep their kitchen jobs, which came with extra food and air conditioning. Small privileges that meant everything in a place like Angola. Lunch service began at 11 a.m. The food moved through the line fast. 900 trays in 90 minutes. Webb watched the operation like he always did. Smooth, efficient. No complaints about portions. No incidents. By 1 p.m., the trays were collected and counted. All 900 accounted for. Kitchen cleanup began. By 3 p.m., the first inmate reported to medical with severe stomach cramps. By 4 p.m., 12 more followed. By 5 p.m., the medical unit was overwhelmed. 27 inmates with identical symptoms. Violent vomiting, diarrhea, severe dehydration. The on-duty nurse called for backup. The doctor on call arrived and immediately ordered quarantine protocols. By 6 p.m., 41 inmates were hospitalized. 3 were critical. The warden shut down Camp F kitchen operations. All food service suspended. Every batch of remaining ingredients quarantined for testing. The Louisiana Department of Public Safety sent investigators. The Department of Health arrived with testing equipment. They started with the chicken. The results came back within hours. Salmonella. Levels high enough to hospitalize even healthy adults. The chicken had been contaminated before it arrived at Angola, then stored at unsafe temperatures long enough for the bacteria to multiply to dangerous concentrations. But the refrigerator logs showed perfect temperature control. 38 degrees. Every 4 hours. For 72 hours straight. Someone had been falsifying the records. The investigators pulled the actual refrigerator data from the digital monitoring system. The backup system that recorded temperatures automatically, independent of manual logs. The unit had been running at 45 degrees for 6 days. Not 3. 6. Someone knew. Someone had been covering it up. Someone had been falsifying logs to hide equipment failure, probably to avoid the paperwork and hassle of getting it fixed. And Marcus Webb had served contaminated chicken to 900 men based on those false logs. By 8 p.m., 63 inmates were hospitalized. Were in intensive care. The governor's office was being briefed. The media was asking questions. Lawsuits were being drafted. Webb sat in the warden's office, staring at the printed logs. His signature on every shift. His responsibility. His kitchen. His decision to serve the chicken despite Harris's warning. The investigator asked him the obvious question. Did you check the actual temperature or just trust the logs? Webb had checked. He'd seen 43 degrees. But he trusted the logs over his own thermometer. Trusted the system. Assumed the thermometer was malfunctioning, not the refrigerator. 1 degree of doubt. One bad decision. 63 men hospitalized. Then the investigator asked the question Webb had been dreading. Who was responsible for recording the temperatures in the manual log? Webb pulled the duty roster. Checked the schedule for the past week. Cross-referenced with the handwriting on the log sheets. The same person had recorded every temperature check for 6 straight days. Perfect 38 degrees. Every 4 hours. Never missing an entry. Inmate worker Jerome Harris. The same man who'd warned him about batch 3. The same man he dismissed. The same man who'd been falsifying safety logs for almost a week. But when they checked the logs, everything changed. Jerome Harris wasn't in his cell. He wasn't in the kitchen. He wasn't in the common area. He wasn't anywhere in Camp F. The count came up 1 inmate short at the 8 p.m. lockdown. Standard procedure became emergency protocol. Full facility search. Every cell. Every corridor. Every closet and storage room. Harris had vanished during the chaos of the medical emergency. 63 sick inmates being transported off the unit. Guards focused on crisis management. Security cameras monitoring ambulance movements. A 6-hour window when no one was watching 1 kitchen worker who'd been on the facility for 11 years without a single disciplinary write-up. The investigators pulled Harris's file while the search continued. Serving 25 years for armed robbery. Eligible for parole in 3 years. Model inmate. Kitchen assignment for the past 8 years. Trusted. Reliable. Never missed a shift. Never caused problems. But his recent visitor logs showed something unusual. His sister had visited 4 times in the past 2 months. Before that, she hadn't visited in 3 years. The conversations were monitored but contained nothing suspicious. Family talk. Updates about relatives. Discussion of his upcoming parole hearing. The investigators requested the audio recordings of those visits. While they waited for the files, they focused on the refrigerator logs. Harris had recorded every temperature for the past week, but the duty roster showed he wasn't scheduled for temperature checks. That was supposed to be rotating among all kitchen workers. Different person each shift. Marcus Webb explained the reality. On paper, yeah, it rotates. In practice, Harris handled most of the documentation. He was good at it. Kept everything organized. I trusted him to manage the paperwork while other workers focused on food prep. So he had complete control over the logs? For his shifts, yeah, but I spot-checked. I verified. I saw the thermometer read 43 and I still trusted the logs. The investigator leaned forward. Did Harris ever ask you to skip the spot checks? Remembered conversations. Harris suggesting that manual temperature checks were redundant when they had the digital system. Harris mentioning that opening the refrigerator door too often could affect temperature stability. Small suggestions. Reasonable explanations. He discouraged the checks, Webb admitted. But he never directly stopped me. And I made the final call to serve that chicken. That's on me. The visitor audio files arrived. The investigators listened to all 4 conversations between Harris and his sister. The first 3 were exactly what the monitoring officer had noted. Family updates. Nothing suspicious. The 4th conversation from 3 days ago was different. The sister mentioned their mother's medical bills. Harris said he was handling it. She asked how. He said he had a plan. She said she didn't want him doing anything that would hurt his parole chances. He said not to worry. Everything would be fine. He'd have the money within a week. The investigators cross-referenced the date. 3 days ago was June 11th. The same day the refrigerator started malfunctioning according to the digital records. The same day Harris began falsifying the temperature logs. They pulled Harris's financial records, prison account statements, commissary purchases, money transfers. Nothing unusual. $73 in his account. Standard deposits from his kitchen job. No large transactions. No suspicious activity. But his sister's bank records told a different story. A deposit of $5,000. Made yesterday, June 30th. 1 day before the contaminated lunch service. Wire transfer from an untraceable account. No sender information. Just cash appearing in her account the day before her brother poisoned 900 inmates. The investigators realized they were looking at this wrong. Harris hadn't made a mistake. He hadn't been negligent. He'd been deliberate. Someone had paid him $5,000 to falsify those temperature logs. To ensure that contaminated chicken would be served. To make sure hundreds of inmates would get sick. For what? The answer came from an unexpected source. The hospital. One of the critical patients had stabilized enough to be interviewed. Inmate Marcus Tiny Williams. Serving life for murder. Known enforcer for the Aryan Brotherhood prison gang. Violent. Dangerous. Currently handcuffed to a hospital bed with 2 guards posted outside his room. Williams wanted to make a statement. He'd been poisoned deliberately. He knew it. And he knew who ordered it. Check who didn't eat lunch today, Williams said. Check who skipped the meal service. Check who knew. The investigators pulled the meal count records. 892 trays served. 900 inmates in Camp F. 8 inmates had refused lunch. They cross-referenced the names. Ran them through gang intelligence databases. Checked their cell assignments and known affiliations. All 8 were members of rival factions. Different gangs. Different power structures. But all 8 had one thing in common. They were scheduled to testify in an upcoming federal investigation into prison gang operations. An investigation that could bring RICO charges, life sentences, federal prosecution that would move them out of state custody into even harsher federal facilities. Someone wanted those witnesses silenced permanently, but killing 8 specific inmates would raise too many questions. An outbreak of food poisoning affecting the entire camp? That looked like negligence, system failure, budget cuts and deferred maintenance. Not murder. Except the 8 targets didn't eat. They'd been warned. Which meant whoever orchestrated this needed most of the camp to get sick to provide cover, but needed the actual targets to survive so they could be eliminated another way without suspicion. The investigators pulled security footage from the lunch service. Watched the 8 inmates move through the line. Watched them take their trays. Watched them return to their cells. Then they watched what happened next. 7 of the 8 inmates gave their food away. Handed their trays to other inmates. Standard prison economy. Food as currency. Nothing unusual. But the 8th inmate, cell F247, did something different. He ate his lunch. All of it. And 30 minutes later, he was one of the first to report to medical with severe symptoms. His name was Raymond Booker. Supposed to testify in 2 weeks. Known associate of Tiny Williams. Critical witness who could connect 6 different gang leaders to a coordinated racketeering operation. And someone had made sure he ate the contaminated chicken despite being warned not to. The investigators reviewed the footage again. Focused on Booker's cell. Watched who approached him before lunch. Watched who talked to him. Jerome Harris had delivered something to Booker's cell at 10:30 a.m. 30 minutes before lunch service. A brief conversation through the cell bars. Harris handed something through. Booker took it. The investigators enhanced the footage. Zoomed in. Tried to identify what Harris had passed. It looked like a small packet. But rectangular. Could have been anything. Sugar, salt, contraband, medicine. But whatever it was, Booker consumed it with his lunch. And whatever it was made sure he couldn't refuse to eat the contaminated food even though he'd been warned. By 9 p.m., Raymond Booker was dead. Organ failure. Catastrophic dehydration. The doctors said he'd had an unusually severe reaction to the salmonella. Couldn't explain why. Just said some people were more susceptible. But the investigators knew. The packet Harris delivered contained something that amplified the food poisoning, made it lethal instead of just severe, targeted one specific inmate while using mass poisoning as cover. And Jerome Harris had orchestrated all of it. The falsified logs, the contaminated chicken, the strategic warning to 7 witnesses, the targeted elimination of the 8th. They found him 6 hours later in the prison chapel, hanging from a ceiling beam with a bedsheet. Suicide. Note in his pocket explaining he couldn't live with the guilt of what he'd done, couldn't face the consequences, couldn't handle the responsibility for 63 hospitalized men and 1 dead inmate. The note was detailed, confessional. It matched his handwriting. It admitted to falsifying the logs to avoid paperwork, admitted to making a catastrophic mistake, admitted to cowardice in the face of consequence. It read exactly like what a guilty man would write. But the investigators noticed something. The note never mentioned the $5,000. Never mentioned the packet delivered to Booker's cell. Never mentioned the 7 inmates who'd been warned not to eat. And when they examined Harris's body, they found bruising on his wrists. Fresh. Inflicted within hours of death. The pattern consistent with restraints. With being held down. Jerome Harris hadn't committed suicide. Someone had staged it. Someone who needed him silenced before he could explain who really paid him. Who really orchestrated Raymond Booker's murder. Who really controlled the conspiracy. The search of Harris's cell revealed one final piece of evidence. Hidden inside a hollowed-out Bible. A burner phone. 7 text messages sent over the past week. Instructions. Timing. Details about the refrigerator. Details about Booker. Details about payment. All from one number. Untraceable. But the last message was sent 6 hours ago. After the outbreak. After Booker died. After Harris disappeared. The message was simple: good work. One more task. Then you're clear. Harris never got a chance to complete that final task. Because whoever sent those messages made sure he couldn't talk about any of it. The burner phone belonged to someone inside the prison. Cell tower triangulation placed every message within Angola's property boundaries. Not from outside. Not from a visitor. From someone who lived and worked inside the 18,000 acres. The investigators narrowed the timeline. The messages were sent during specific shifts. Early mornings. Late evenings. Times when security was lightest. When fewer people were watching. They cross-referenced staff schedules with the message timestamps. Eliminated anyone who'd been off-duty or off-property when messages were sent. 43 employees worked those exact shift patterns over the past week. Then they checked who had access to Camp F kitchen, who could move through the facility without raising questions, who understood food service protocols well enough to plan this. The list dropped to 7 names. One of them was Marcus Webb. The investigators brought him back in, showed him the timeline, showed him the phone records, watched his face as he realized he was a suspect. "I served that chicken," Webb said. "Why would I poison my own kitchen? Why would I risk my career, my freedom, for what? Gang politics? I don't even know who Raymond Booker was until yesterday." The investigator agreed. Webb didn't fit. No motive. No connection to the victim. No financial irregularities. Just a career food service manager who'd made a tragic mistake trusting falsified logs. But someone on that list of 7 did fit. They pulled financial records for all 7. Bank accounts, credit cards, property ownership, looking for the same pattern they'd found with Harris's sister. Unexplained cash, sudden deposits, evidence of payment. 6 of the 7 were clean. Standard civil service salaries, normal expenses, nothing suspicious. The 7th had purchased a new truck 3 weeks ago. Cash payment, $38,000. No loan, no trade-in, just cash that shouldn't have existed on a corrections officer salary. Officer David Melancon, 15 years at Angola. Camp F security supervisor. Access to every part of the facility. Knowledge of gang hierarchies. relationships with inmates that stretched back over a decade. The investigators pulled his personnel file. Solid record. No disciplinary issues. Promoted twice. Respected by staff and inmates alike. The kind of officer who kept the peace through relationships rather than force. But his visitor logs over the past 6 months showed a pattern. Monthly meetings with someone named Robert Terrence. Listed as an old family friend. Approved visits. Nothing suspicious in the monitored conversations. Except Robert Terrence was the uncle of Raymond Booker. The same Raymond Booker who died from contaminated chicken. The same Raymond Booker who was going to testify against 6 gang leaders. The same Raymond Booker whose death had just eliminated the prosecution's key witness. The investigators dug deeper into Terrence's background. Found connections to the Aryan Brotherhood leadership. Found financial transfers to offshore accounts. Found evidence of a sophisticated criminal operation that extended far beyond prison walls. And they found something else. Wire transfers totaling $120,000 to an account in Melancon's wife's maiden name. Payments made over 6 months. The last payment made yesterday, after Booker died. Melancon had been paid to ensure Raymond Booker never testified. But he couldn't just kill an inmate. That would raise questions. Trigger investigations. Expose the conspiracy. So he'd created a system failure. A food poisoning outbreak that would look like negligence. Budget cuts and deferred maintenance and overworked staff making mistakes. He'd recruited Jerome Harris with a smaller payment. Convinced him he was just helping cover up equipment failure to avoid paperwork. Made it seem minor. Victimless. Just falsifying some temperature logs. But Melancon had been controlling the refrigerator the whole time. He had access to the maintenance systems. He'd disabled the cooling unit remotely. Let it run warm for days. Ensured the chicken would become contaminated. Then he'd made sure Harris delivered that final packet to Booker. Told Harris it was medicine. Something to help Booker avoid the food poisoning that everyone knew was coming. But the packet wasn't medicine. It was a catalyst. Something that would make the salmonella lethal instead of just severe. And when Harris realized what he'd actually done, when he understood he'd murdered someone instead of just covering up a maintenance issue, Melancon had silenced him. Staged the suicide. Eliminated the only person who could connect him to the conspiracy. The investigators arrested Melancon at his home. Found the second burner phone. Found the offshore account details. Found evidence of years of corruption. Protection rackets. Drug trafficking. Witness intimidation. Melancon had been running criminal operations from inside Angola for over a decade. Using his position to facilitate gang activities. Taking payments to ensure certain inmates stayed safe while others disappeared. Building an empire inside America's largest maximum security prison. And he'd gotten away with it because everyone trusted the system. Trusted that food poisoning was just food poisoning. That equipment failures were just budget cuts. That suicide was just suicide. But the investigation revealed something worse. Melancon wasn't alone. 4 other officers were implicated. 2 kitchen supervisors. 1 medical staff member. All part of the same network. All taking payments to facilitate gang operations. All protected by the assumption that prison problems were just incompetence rather than conspiracy. The federal investigation that Raymond Booker was supposed to testify in expanded. RICO charges against 6 gang leaders became RICO charges against 23 people. Inmates and staff. A criminal enterprise that had operated inside Angola for years. Marcus Webb resigned 3 days after Melancon's arrest. Couldn't work in the kitchen anymore. Couldn't look at the refrigerator without seeing 63 hospitalized men. Couldn't forgive himself for trusting the logs. For dismissing Harris's warning. For serving contaminated chicken because he was trying to stretch a $3 daily budget. The state increased food service funding by 40%. Implemented mandatory temperature monitoring systems. Required dual verification of all safety logs. Brought in outside inspectors for monthly audits. But none of it brought back Raymond Booker. None of it erased the fact that 1 man had died and 63 others had suffered because corruption had been disguised as cost-cutting. The investigators filed their final report. Detailed the conspiracy. explained how Melancon had weaponized poverty, how he'd turned budget constraints into murder weapons, how he'd exploited the $3 daily food budget to create conditions where contamination was inevitable, where safety shortcuts were standard, where falsified logs were easier than fixing broken equipment. Louisiana State Penitentiary continued operating. 5,000 inmates, 18,000 acres, meals served 3 times a day. The new systems prevented another outbreak. The increased funding improved food quality. The arrests removed the corrupt officers. But the fundamental economics didn't change. $3 per day per inmate was still $3. Still barely enough. Still requiring constant compromise between nutrition and budget. Still creating pressure to cut corners, to defer maintenance, to trust logs instead of reality. And somewhere in that pressure, in that impossible math of feeding thousands of people on poverty-level budgets, there would always be opportunity for someone like David Melancon, someone willing to exploit desperation, someone willing to turn system failure into personal profit. The kitchen at Camp F reopened 4 weeks after the outbreak. New refrigerators, new monitoring systems, new staff. Marcus Webb's replacement followed every protocol, checked every temperature personally, never trusted the logs alone. But late at night, when the kitchen was empty and the refrigerators hummed in the darkness, the new supervisors sometimes wondered if the equipment would hold, wondered if the budget would stretch, wondered if $3 was enough to keep 5,000 men fed and safe, wondered what corners he might be forced to cut when the money ran out. This could happen again. The numbers don't lie. $3 per day, equipment that fails, budgets that shrink, pressure that builds, and people who see opportunity in every system failure. Angola learned its lesson, implemented reforms, arrested the corrupt, improved conditions. But across America, hundreds of prisons operate on similar budgets, serve similar meals, face similar pressures, use similar equipment that breaks down the same way. And in those facilities, the same impossible math creates the same vulnerabilities, the same opportunities for corruption, the same potential for tragedy disguised as negligence. If this story shook you, the next one will be worse. Because this wasn't an isolated incident. It was a symptom. And the disease is still spreading through every underfunded, understaffed, overburdened prison system in the country. The only question is where it happens next, and whether anyone will notice before it's too late.